Help me to understand, why is this happening? Why the like very prominent and names in the media industry say these things? Is that coincidence, or is it a position that Jeremy Bowden just took, and that's we're trying to look unbiased, or what?
Let me propose to you my theory. And my theory revolves around hybrid warfare. In particular, it revolves around the Russian model of hybrid warfare. And a key, hybrid warfare is using a whole range of different tactics, ranging from, at one end of the spectrum, conventional violence, which is what Russia has been doing since what Russia has been doing in Ukraine since 2014 with the invasion of Donbass and the illegal annexation of Crimea. But that escalated massively on the 24th of February 2022. But hybrid warfare also involves interference in elections. It involves cyber attacks. It involves doing various things to sow confusion and dissent. But above all, in the Russian model, it involves disinformation. What I referred to earlier as lying. Russia is a country that lies on an industrial scale. And they have been doing this in particular since 2005, when the channel Russia Today, now known as RT, was launched and set up offices around the Western world. And what RT says is question more. And that tells us exactly what their tactic is, because what they want us to question in the West is our own norms. Exactly as Jeremy Bowen said last week, well, we may never definitively know who did it. We have to question more. It could have been Russia. It could have been Ukraine. The dam might just have fallen apart. And the point I'm trying to come to, Henry, is people in the West need to better understand the nature of hybrid warfare. They need to understand that a weapon in this war, which, by the way, is not just waged on Ukraine, it's waged on all of us in the West, and you in particular, being from Latvia. When I was last out in Latvia and when I was in Lithuania, and this was back in 2015 to 2018, so many people told me how much fear they had of Russia and how actually they weren't completely confident that if Russia did invade, that NATO would act on Article 5. I think there is maybe a little bit more confidence around that now. But people need to understand the nature of hybrid warfare, the nature of Russian disinformation, the massive amount of resource which Russia puts into this. Starting at the top, it's led by their diplomatic missions, their embassies around the world, including the UN. Their ambassadors lie every day. Sergei Lavrov lies every day, down to channels like Russia Today, RT, and Sputnik, which are not real media organizations. They are lying channels for the Kremlin. Down to they have well-placed assets in different countries. You know some of the people I'm talking about and what I'm talking about, who constantly push the Russian line. And there are armies, as you know, in troll farms outside Moscow and St. Petersburg, who drip their poison and their lies across the internet every day. They are paid to do it. They are professional trolls. And behind them is a whole, if you like, volunteer army of useful idiots, we call them, who for whatever reason, for stupidity or for corrupt minds,
absolutely,
like to believe in Russia, like to support Russia, and like to help amplify the Russian story. So we need to answer your question, we need to better understand the nature of hybrid warfare, and that this war we are in at the moment has been, more than any war in history, is an information war as well. And if the Western media can understand that, they must understand that that the way that we want to do things in peacetime, in democracy, where we have balance and fairness, simply cannot pertain when we're dealing with Russia, because what Russia has been doing for many, many years is using our own democratic values against us, and we keep falling for it.
Cormac, we in Baltic states, in Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, know absolutely well we've paid an enormous price being in Soviet regime. We know that Putin is still there. Russia is a Soviet Union, and we don't want to go back.
Henry, can I say two things? I started to realize this in late 2016, early 2017, when I was working at the heart of the Ukrainian government. And somebody who has gone on to become a very good friend of mine. He is charge d'affaires in a big embassy in Europe at the moment, and I visited him about a month ago. And he told me one night, he said, Cormac, what you have got to realize, it's not just that we want to be a member of the EU and we want the wealth of the West. It's far more important to understand what we are trying to get away from, the horrors of the Soviet Union that we are trying to leave behind. And I started saying around 2017 to colleagues in the West, and when I did interviews or whatever, we need to see Russia through Ukrainian eyes and through the eyes of people in the Baltics like yourself and the eyes of people in Poland. Because when I speak to people like you, and when I speak to a chap who's a Polish chap who's lived in the UK for 20 years, and I meet him in the park when we walk our dogs, and we talk about this. And when I talk to people like this, they grew up with the horrors of the Soviet Union and the stories of their parents and their grandparents who, so many people have told me that people who lived through the Second World War would say how much worse the Russians were than the Nazis ever were. We need to, but we don't see that in the West. We still see this through rose-tinted spectacles. We need to see Russia through your eyes, through Ukrainian eyes.
Thank you very much.
Through the eyes of people in what I call the Eastern neighborhood, a part of the world that I have fallen in love with, not just Ukraine. I have worked in maybe 12 or 13 different Eastern European countries.
Let me ask you a very straightforward and last question, because this has been a lovely conversation, as I have told you and my dear audience. But we're really running out of time. But my last question is really, really straightforward. Who do you think will win in this war?
My heart says Ukraine.
Thank you very much.
I absolutely back Ukraine. I will not. I have many concerns. I believe Ukraine will win. Because I believe first and foremost in the strength and the decency of the Ukrainian people. And secondly, I have got to believe in the ultimate decency and the belief in freedom and democracy of the Western society that I am part of, and that we have seen the support grow and grow. And yes, there's huge concerns that how long will that last? But if I'm a betting man, my money is on Ukraine.
Thank you very much.